Have you ever wondered what a Bronze Age shirt looked like or how to make one? Hey Sun, I'm Daisy Victoria, and today I have an answer for you. I've been playing with some ideas from Bronze Age finds in Denmark and Northern Germany, and I am so excited to be working on the shirt today. My favorite is the Ektvad girl with the string skirt. We'll get more on that at a later time. But several of the burials in this region have basically the same style of basic shirt, and this is the pattern, and if it looks kind of funky, don't worry, I am going to demystify it for you. To make this shirt, we're going to need a few measurements. We need the bust size, that way the shirt will clear the bust. We also need the length of the shirt, so we need from shoulder to where we want the hem to be. We need the length from the shoulder down to where we want the bottom of the arm opening. And we also need to know how wide we need the neck opening to be. And don't worry, you can always try this on as you cut the neck hole and get it perfect later. This is roughly what the pattern layout looks like using my measurements. And if this looks funny, don't worry, we are totally going to make sense of it and you'll see as we go. The total length of my shirt rectangle is going to be that length from shoulder to hem plus the shoulder to armhole. So we're going to end up with the shoulder to armhole twice, and then that extends all the way to the hem in the front. So bear with me. The length of the rectangle is shoulder to hem plus shoulder to armpit. While the shirts found in the Danish grave finds are wool, I am using this lightweight off-white linen to make my shirt. I'm cutting it out, trying to follow the grain lines, so that's why I'm cutting a little bit slowly and just following along a line of fibers. That way I'll make it as straight of a cut as possible along with the fabric. That's something I like to do on fabrics where I do have the privilege of being able to see the grain line well enough to do it. The width of that rectangle is going to be the bust measurement. Now you can add some seam allowance and you can even add some ease if you'd like to, but remember the shirt must at minimum clear your bust. And that is how you determine the width of the fabric. This rectangle could look a little different. If you are making a shorter shirt, it will be shorter. Longer shirt will be longer. So if you're making a shirt for a dachshund, let's say, you would have a rectangle that's narrow but very long. If you are instead making a shirt for an Oompa Loompa, it might be shorter and wider. So the size of the rectangle depends on who you're making the shirt to fit. So make sure you take those measurements. All right, at this point, we have a nice rectangle of fabric. Yay! We're ready to turn this into a shirt. What we need to do is start cutting it up according to that pattern diagram that looks really weird. You'll see how it makes sense very shortly. I'm going to go ahead and work on the neck hole first on this shirt. So I folded the fabric in half so that way I make sure that I'm working from the center so it's symmetrical. I'm measuring down how far I want the neck hole based on the measurement I took of shoulder to armpit. So for me that was 10 inches. That means I need the neck hole to be 10 inches in from one edge of this fabric, and that's lengthwise. Then I'm going to cut a slit that is the width I've determined that I need for my neckline. And from here, there's not necessarily a specific way you have to cut your neckline. It even varies in the shirts of the grave finds. Sometimes they even have a slit in the front. Since I'm most inspired by the Ektvad girl, which doesn't have a slit, I will be making just a round neckline. So once I have that slit, I'm gonna start curving it a little bit. And I like to fold my fabric over so that my curvature is symmetric left to right. And I'm just gonna curve it until it works for me. And I can determine if it works for me by pulling it over my head to see if it goes over. separate the arms from the body of the shirt. To do that, I'm looking back here at my little diagram so I don't forget how to measure it out. That length from shoulder to armpit, I need 2 of that length. So for me, I measured 10 inches. That means I need 20. And that's where I need to separate. So I just need to make a cut, and that separates the arms from the body. Now, how far in do I make that cut? Wonderful question. What we're cutting out here is separating a back piece that we're going to wrap around to the back of the shirt. So the entire back that we're separating is half the bust, which means that each side we're cutting is 1/4 of the bust. So I had 36, divided by 2 is 18, divided by 2 again is 9. So I need to cut in 9 inches on each side. And now that I have this, I can actually show you how this is going to fold together into a shirt. I know, it's actually super simple, very fabric efficient, and it's kind of cool. I actually think it's very clever. So we fold in those lower pieces toward the back, and then we just fold this down here, and look at that, a shirt. All we have to do is stitch it together. Starting by stitching together those back pieces, so that's the center back seam. To do that, I simply fold them in together and do a straight stitch. I'm doing my seams by machine, and then I am serging them, but you can sew this however you like. Next, we need to fold over the top, so over the shoulder, and we need to stitch that in place. I'm lining up the sleeves and stitching a seam there, and then when I get to the middle of the shirt or the body, I'm going to stitch that piece of fabric onto that tube that creates the body. The one funky thing about this seam that goes across the back and onto the sleeves is that you want to mind that corner right there where you transition from sleeve to body. So you want to make sure that you catch all the fabric in there. You're probably going to end up with a little bit of a pinch, or not quite a pleat, but it's just sort of pinched in there so that it has seam allowance, if that makes sense. Always a good idea to iron your seams flat. That will make your life a lot easier. And while we're up here at the ironing board, let's go ahead and iron some hems. We need to hem the bottom of the shirt, we need to hem the sleeves, and we need to hem the neckline. For the lower edge and the sleeves, I'm folding over a pretty decent sized hem. And there's no rule for hem size. You can do what works for you. It's your shirt, so you get to make the call. Or on this one, I guess it's my shirt, so I get to make the call. For the neckline, since it's curved, I'm folding it over a very small amount, so it will be easier to kind of manipulate those fibers and get it folded and sewn down. Pretty cool. And this is just a straight up rectangle of fabric. I think it's so clever. I'm going to try on the shirt with this skirt that I have here, which is just a rectangle of linen. That'll just give us a little bit more of an idea of the outfit, as I have not yet completed a whole outfit at the time of making the shirt. The skirts in these burials are rectangles of fabric which are tied on. Sometimes they're folded over at the top. Sometimes they're folded over quite a lot, sometimes not much or not at all. Basically, just wrap a rectangle around you and belt it, and you've got a Bronze Age skirt. This necklace is one that I made using some found beads from Joann's, and I do have some more fancy jewelry on order, but it was not yet here at the time of this video. And I'm going to go ahead and put on my sprong hairnet, which I made in the last video. And if you're really interested in my endeavors into the Bronze Age in this region, I will also be sharing how I made a very interesting hat based on a grape find in northern Germany. So stick around, come back, and we'll explore that one soon. If you take some inspiration, I'd love to see what you do with it. Find me on all the social medias as Daisy Viktoria. My website is daisyviktoria.com. And a special thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help me so much to continue creating content. I hope you all have an absolutely magical day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.